Hello people, and welcome back to my channel. Today we have another video for you, and it is my first ever requested video, and that request comes from, and I've been told I'm allowed to call her this, so it comes from Little Thang from Philadelphia in the United States of America. How cool is that? Now you may remember a little over a year ago, I recorded and uploaded an episode onto my channel about how I drive. This subscriber friend now found this video because she wants to learn how to drive, and she has a disability like mine, cerebral palsy. Not as what's the word? Not as bad, not like she can walk, but she wanted some information on how to drive, and she came about my video and then subscribed, and we are now, I would like to say that we are friends. How cool is that I've got friends in other parts of the world because of YouTube? Amazing. She asked me to do a video about what it was like for me when I first started learning to drive. So we're going to do that now. And we're going to try and do it reasonably quickly because it is boiling in the UK today, and I haven't got aircon on because it makes a horrible noise when I'm recording. So let's get on with it, Lee, yeah? In the UK, when you are 16, you can learn to drive. And if you have the higher rate part of your disability allowance, you can get a mobility vehicle like what I'm sitting in now, okay, with all the adaptions, ball on the steering wheel, controls and everything. Whatever you need can get done via mobility. It's like a leasing thing. Anyway, when I was at school and we were coming up to the age where me and some of my friends were thinking about learning to drive, not that I was ever going to do that when I was 16 and going through exams and whatever. I like to just focus. I don't feel like I was ready. They made it out to be, I can't remember what lesson it was, but there was a company or like a program where you could go and be assessed to see if you were capable of driving and what kind of adaptions you may need. I did that, and my dad spent over £100, British pounds, to take me on this day assessment and do all different kinds of things and go out in a car and check out other adaptions or what have you. All went fine. I thought that I legally had to do this, okay? That's the only reason I made my dad spend that money, to make sure that I was safe to be able to drive. Turns out, after I did that and we drove to God knows where and spent all that money and had these assessments done, I find out afterwards I didn't really need to do that. A driving instructor could have just told me over the phone whether my disability was fine and what adaptions I would need. So thanks for making me waste over £100. So I did that while I was still at school, just to be safe. And like I said, I thought I needed to do it. So, do that. Then I went to college. I could have learnt to drive then, but I fully focused on what I was studying and being with new people. Also, I didn't have the money. It's quite expensive, and it's probably gone up now, but when I was thinking about it and then learning, it went up. It was like £30 to £50 for a 2-hour lesson each week. The first instructor I had was with BSM. He wasn't great. let's be honest, I don't really, no, actually I'm not going to even, he did not want to teach people to learn to drive, let alone people with disabilities who needed adaptations. His heart was not in it. He did not want to do it. He made me feel extremely awkward, and I would sit in the car and he would say things like, when you have a vehicle, you're going to need the steering wheel ball in this position that, like, you can kind of see now. I'm going to need it here, right? And a bit off camera, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but it was either on the top or at the bottom or a little bit off, and all of the adaptations were a little bit like he couldn't be bothered. And he basically said that to me once, possibly twice, that I would need to be able to move it, but he hasn't got the time or the want to do it, so I'm going to have to just drive the car the way it is because he's not interested. And he would come out with like stupid, ignorant things on the occasions when I actually did have a lesson with the guy. He would say things like, you can't go that fast or this fast in your wheelchair, can you, when I'm going 30 mile an hour and then 70 mile an hour on a thing on a motorway or an A road, because you weren't allowed to go on motorways back when I was learning to drive. And like, when you're in the car and these things are happening, you just take it with a pinch of salt, because you're learning to drive, right? You're in control of a vehicle that you're not overly confident with because you're learning. So you laugh it off, even though he makes you feel extremely awkward. My mouth is very dry. It's very hot. Like, I'd get out at the end of lessons, my dad or my mum, more so my dad, would come out and check on me, help me into my chair, because I didn't take my chair with me on lessons. So, no, I didn't. So they would come out, help me out of the car, and then ask the guy, like, have a conversation with the guy and see how I'm getting on. He would say these kind of comments to my dad as well. Like, we went on an A road today and he went 70 miles an hour. He's not going to be able to do that in that chair. And I think he was trying to be funny, but it just came off as a little bit ignorant. He would also say things like, my dad would ask how I was doing in the lessons, and he, I think on more than one occasion again, said, well, he's doing okay for someone who hasn't got legs. And I'm like, I've got legs, I just don't use them to drive. I would spend money and time in sorting out these lessons with him, and there's a rule that when you, like, I don't know if it's still the same, it probably is, because they want to make sure that they're getting money if you cancel, but there's a rule that if you're going to cancel a lesson, you have to cancel it within, I want to say, 48 hours, somewhere between 48 hours and 24 hours, okay? I think it's more 48. But I never did that, not that I can remember. I would get up on the day of my lessons, get showered, make sure that, like, I'm ready for when he turns up, and then it would get to like 15-20 minutes before my lessons. He would ring up, or the company would ring up, and they would say, I can't even remember his name, but they would say, oh, he's not going to be able to make it today for whatever excuse. And I'm not being funny, but the guy had so many family bereavements every month that he mustn't have many family members left. That you can't keep using the same excuse. He just did not want to teach me to drive. It was awful. He was awful, and from my experience, even though it was like a decade ago, I would not recommend BSM driving school. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody was like this guy, but he was just, his heart wasn't in it. He wasn't nice. And then when I had to deal with the customer service, and they were like, the last time they did this to me and cancelled my lesson on the day of, like literally within the hour of him supposed to be turning up, and the customer service desk or whatever rang me up and said that he wasn't going to make it, and I was like, well, I'm not going to pay you, and I don't want to have lessons with him anymore. But they literally threatened me with going to court, and it turned out like I wasn't the most confident on the phone back then. I said that you're going to have to talk to my dad, because like that threw me. He had a go at them. Turns out that he gave the phone back to me, and like I grew some balls and said, I'm not paying you, I'm not happy, I'm not having any more lessons with you. If you want to take me to court, take me to court. But nothing ever happened, because I said, like, this isn't the first time that this has happened. You ring me up, or he rings me up, or texts me to cancel, pretty much 85-90% of the time. So if you want to take me to court over stuff, do it. And then I put the phone down. Never heard anything again. Found Tony at Benson's driving school. He was a character. He was actually like, he had a disability and was more engaged with helping disabled drivers actually achieve some independence and a skill. I passed my theory first go, and I want to say that we had anywhere between 6 months to just under, I don't know, let's just say under a year, because I can't exactly remember, right, how long it took me, and it was some time ago. But passed my theory first time, and I get to my first driving test. Everything's been going fine. Like, I use all the mirrors perfectly, right? That's one thing I do remember, that when you're driving with a driving instructor, because there was absolutely no way that, let's backtrack a minute, there was absolutely no way that I was going to learn to drive with a member of my family. Going with an instructor was the best thing to do, and I didn't have a car, because my dad said to me, look, I'm not going to make you order a vehicle and then have it sitting on the drive, like winding you up when you can't drive it, or if you don't pass or whatever. So we'll wait until you've got to the point where you've passed, and then we'll go through it, because it's the first time we've done it, which I thought at the time was fair enough. Using the mirrors in an instructor's car is amazing, right? Because you've got the big wing mirrors that you've got already, but he's got all these little extra ones which you can put on your car, I suppose, at the top and at the bottom. So reversing around a corner for me was like the best thing in the world, because it had like a little mirror at the bottom and you could see the curb, and I used to be able to do it just like that, and I'd be in close and I'd be like, I've got this. This is, if I get asked that maneuver on my test, I'm gonna bomb it. And he was like, yeah, you are doing it correctly and you can do it really quick, and I know what you're doing. Like, use the mirrors, all of the mirrors to your advantage. That's what they're there for. But please, when you're doing your test and the instructor is looking, make sure you look like you're looking in every mirror and you know what's going on, even though you're using that's absolutely fine. I loved learning to drive. Never had a problem with the speed or controlling my speed. It didn't bother me at all. You know, you see some learners, which is fair enough, they get like nervous when they have to build up speed and go with the flow of traffic, and they're always a bit slower and nervous and juddery. Never had that problem, and being able to control it on the hand controls was always smooth like butter. I'm not just bigging myself up, it just kind of clicked. Like, people always say, and I said this in the previous video that I will tag, isn't it difficult for you to drive with the adaptions you have? And again, I don't know any different. So, no, it's not difficult, because this is all I know and it is easy for me. If you're going to jump in and have a go, you'll probably find it difficult because your brain is wired to use your feet and not your hands. But, having said that, like, it would be illegal for you to use my adaptions on the road anyway. But if you were to do it and you've played PlayStation or any kind of gaming, I think you'd be alright. You should be anyway. The only time you do get nervous is after you've passed, which we'll backtrack again because I'm like rambling off. I passed on my second go. Second time, I think it was like a week to 2 weeks later, like as soon as I could get another test, I booked it. The instructor said to me, like, your driving is good. I think that nerves just got the better of you and you should book in another test as soon as possible. So I did that, and on my second go I passed. Different instructor. Apparently this one was more adapt to testing disabled drivers with adaptions. Not that it's any different, right? We still have to do, obviously, the same test to be legal on the road. But if you've got an instructor that is used to dealing with a driver who uses adaptions and maybe their nerves are slightly... Well, everyone's nervous. I don't really... But it just makes you feel more at ease. If they're used to seeing the adaptions and how they drive and what it does, then it just makes you feel more comfortable than having someone who is an instructor and the test is exactly the same. Like, the car I'm driving is exactly the same, it's just got the adaptions added to it. There is no cutting corners or an easier way for me or anyone with a disability to be able to drive, and it's still the same test. Whatever the test is today is the test that any disabled driver has to pass. And I did it, and it's the best feeling in the world. But that is when you truly start to learn. Because, and I never really understood it, right, when I was learning to drive, because you feel confident, you feel like, oh, I've got this, like I've learned all of the stuff that I need to do. But you've got someone beside you, talking to you, training you, and it's like a safety blanket. If anything does go wrong, like, they're there to help you deal with a situation or stop you if you've done something wrong. When you've passed, and I had to wait some time before I got my first car because, like I said, I waited until I'd passed to get it. So then I had to apply. It takes like 8 weeks to get everything done. So I had 2 months where I'd passed, but I hadn't been driving. So confidence kind of took a knock. That first time that I went out on my own in my car, I only went like 5 minutes down the road and back again. But I can remember that I was just sat there driving, thinking, like, I actually said it out loud in my car. I'm driving. I'm on my own. I'm driving. This is me. I'm doing this. Like, it's me. And like the smile on my face, but also the nerves. But it's true, right? You don't learn to drive until you've passed, and then you're out doing it on your own. And trust me, when you're doing a test route all around where you live, you remember those roads somewhat. But when you don't know where you're going, it's nerve-wracking. Sometimes it's even nerve-wracking for me now. Like, I hate driving in massive cities like London. No. And we all know that, like, public transport for me and anyone with a disability, especially ones in wheelchairs and not even that, is just a traumatic, awkward experience. But being able to drive gives you so much freedom, and it's very cliche, but it's just like riding a bike. Not that oh no, that's a lie, I have ridden a bike. It's like riding a bike. Once you do it more and more, you get comfortable with it, and then it's just easy. There are still times when you feel uneasy and nervous, like if you're on a road that you're unsure of, or you've taken a wrong turning and you're like crapping your pants because where am I? How do I get out of here? I'm on my own, especially for me because I'm on my own, and sometimes I don't have the chair next to me. I have it in the boot, like you might be able to see in the back, and I can't get out, and if anything goes wrong, I'm screwed. But learning to drive is probably the best thing that I have done, because it's given me independence to go wherever I want to go, just to go for a drive, to meet people, to go and do stuff, just to be out. Even if I'm not out, I'm not stuck in my room, or I don't know. It's the best thing, and it's going to take certain people longer or not as long, but the achievement you feel and the freedom you feel once you've done it is unbelievable. Don't feel nervous about it, okay? Because it's just, as long as you can do all of it and you stay calm, you can only react to what is happening in front of you and behind, right? Once you've moved on and whatever situation that might make you nervous has happened, you need to stop thinking about that and concentrate on what you're doing. Like, throw it to the back of your mind. Don't let things stay there and panic you and make you feel uncomfortable. You can achieve it. You can do it. There are people in the world now that will help you, and there is technology out there that helps people that you wouldn't think be able to drive or do anything like this do it. So it's all possible. Just take your time. There's no race. We've all got all the time in the world, right? It doesn't matter whether you do it when you're 17, 16 if you're disabled straight away, 22 like I was when I passed, or older, like 40, 50, whenever you want to do it, whenever you feel ready to achieve driving or anything, you can do it. You can do it. Driving is the best thing I've ever done. I love being in my car. That's why there's a lot of videos on this channel of me in my car, because it's where I get a bit of freedom, a bit of space, and I love being in it. So I will catch you in the next one, because my camera is about to run out of time. Hopefully that helped you. Bye.